Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a civilization over 4,500 years old.
Right.
One that built these absolutely incredible cities. I mean, the planning was so advanced. Honestly, it puts some modern ones to shame.
It really does.
But then, almost inexplicably, it vanished. We're diving into one of history's biggest unsolved mysteries here. An ancient world often overshadowed, by the pyramids or the ziggurats.
Definitely.
But in many ways, it was just as, maybe even more sophisticated than places like Mesopotamia or ancient Egypt, especially when you look at urban design, trade, how society was organized.
And what's truly fascinating is the picture that emerges from the ruins themselves.
Yeah.
We're looking at a world with these remarkably straight roads, multi-storied buildings, and get this, made from uniform baked bricks.
Incredible standardization.
Exactly. Plus sophisticated public baths, complex covered drainage systems running under the streets, even massive granaries. It all points to a highly organized society.
And this is the huge but.
Yeah, the big one.
Despite all this evidence of complex life, their written language, we can't read it.
Still undeciphered.
And the people just seem to have, faded away, leaving only these tantalizing clues behind.
Precisely.
And the absolute star players of this deep dive, the cities that really embody this whole enigma, have to be Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa.
The jewels of the civilization, you could say. Still baffling experts today.
So our mission, really, in this deep dive is to explore what we actually know about this Indus Valley Civilization, the IVC, or the Harappan Civilization, as it's also called.
Based on the sources we have.
We're going to journey through its kind of surprising origins, marvel at these urban centers.
Definitely marvel.
Grapple with that incredibly frustrating undeciphered script, explore the theories about why it disappeared, touch on some controversies.
There are a few.
And ultimately see why this ancient society still matters so much today.
And the story of how it was even found is pretty remarkable in itself.
It really is. This wasn't, some planned dig based on old texts.
No, not at all.
The discovery was almost entirely accidental. So back in 1921, you have this British archaeologist, Daya Ramsani.
Right.
He's working near a village called Harappa in modern-day Pakistan, and he just stumbles upon these really unusual, clearly ancient ruins.
Just happened upon them.
Yeah. Then, just a year later, another archaeologist, R.D. Banerjee, uncovers another even bigger site further south, Mohenjo-Daro.
And what they found wasn't just scattered huts.
No way.
Yeah.
These were extensive, incredibly well-planned cities with infrastructure and organization that just completely challenged what everyone thought early civilizations were capable of.
And the sheer scale was astonishing. When we talk IVC, we aren't talking small kingdom.
Not even close.
It's stretched across what's now eastern Pakistan and northwestern India, over 1.25 million square kilometers.
That's huge.
Bigger than Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt put together.
Wow.
Its main period, roughly 3300 to 1300 BCE, but the peak, the urban phase, was about 2600 to 1900 BCE.
And Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa are the famous ones, but there were others too.
Oh yes, many significant sites. Places like Dolavira, Lothal, Kalibangan, scattered across this vast area.
A truly enormous footprint. And alongside that size, you get this really profound, peaceful puzzle.
That's a good way to put it.
Because unlike almost every other major ancient society, we study Egyptians, Mesopotamians, with their war chariots and city conflicts.
Right, the usual narratives.
IVC cities show surprisingly little hard evidence of warfare. We don't find massive defensive walls built for armies or big weapon caches.
And maybe even more striking, no massive palaces like you see in Egypt or Mesopotamia. No huge dominant temples either.
Which usually signal, kings or powerful priests in charge.
Yeah.
Autocratic rule.
Exactly. So it raises this really important question. Could this huge, sophisticated civilization have actually thrived without powerful kings or warlords? Or maybe without a big religious hierarchy demanding giant temples?
Or maybe we just haven't figured out their power structure yet.
That's the other possibility. Maybe authority was shown differently, control over trade. Those granaries suggesting resource control, perhaps a different kind of governance, maybe more collective or decentralized.
It's just the lack of obvious symbols of kings and war is such a departure. Really intriguing.
It absolutely is one of the most unique aspects of the IVC.
It definitely makes you rethink what civilization had to look like back then. Okay. Let's dive into the actual proof of their achievements, these urban marvels. Starting with Mohenjo-Daro, found in 1922. The planning, just mind-blowing.
The grid system, Streets laid out so precisely, main avenues, smaller lanes, all at right angles.
It's almost like modern city planning.
It really is. And the standardization is key. They use these uniform, high-quality baked bricks everywhere.
Not just sun-dried.
No, baked, which requires fuel, kilns, organization, significant control over production, and lots of buildings were multi-story.
And the sanitation. That's maybe the most impressive part.
For the time period, absolutely. A sophisticated covered drainage system along the main streets, linked to drains from individual houses, channeling waste away. They had soak pits, private baths inside homes. This level of public health infrastructure is just unparalleled for the 3rd millennium BCE.
And you can't talk Mohenjo-Daro without the Great Bath. It's like the icon of the city.
It really is. This large rectangular public tank, about 12 by 7 meters, nearly 2.5 meters deep, in the Citadel area.
Built incredibly carefully too, right?
Meticulously. Baked bricks, yes, but sealed with bitumen natural tar to make it waterproof.
Early waterproofing.
Exactly. Its exact purpose, unknown. But given the construction, size, location, probably something ritualistic, communal purification maybe, almost certainly not just a swimming pool.
Then there's Harappa, the site that gave the civilization its name, ironically.
Yes, the type site. Sadly, it was damaged quite badly historically.
Oh, right, the railway bricks incident in the 19th century.
A terrible loss of archaeological context, truly. But even with the damage, Harappa still tells us a lot.
It had a similar layout, citadel and lower town.
Yes, that pattern holds. A raised citadel mound, lower residential area. What's really notable at Harappa are the remains of these large granaries.
Ah, the storage facility.
Massive ones, near the citadel on the river, strongly suggesting, significant surplus food production, and hinting at some kind of centralized control over agriculture, collection, storage, maybe redistribution.
And evidence of workshops too, crafting.
Definitely. Lots of evidence for specialized crafts. Bead making, metalworking, pottery production points to a busy internal economy and, crucially, those wide-reaching trade networks.
And the smaller things they left behind, they give us little windows into their lives.
They do. Those small, square seals, usually made of steatite.
With the amazing animal carvings, bulls, elephants, rhinos.
And, importantly, those mysterious symbols, the Indus script.
What were the seals used for, do we think?
Likely in trade, maybe stamping goods bundles, or for administration, marking ownership or authority somehow.
On jewelry.
Beautifully crafted beads and ornaments, carnelian, lapis lazuli, gold, silver, some materials sourced from really far away. Shows amazing skill, but also those expensive trade rates again.
Afghanistan, maybe even Mesopotamia.
Quite possibly. And then you find everyday things too. Standardized weights and measures crucial for trade. Dice, clay toys, tools, hinting at a society that valued function but maybe leisure too.
Yeah.
And standardization in their economy.
Which brings us
inevitably
to the most tantalizing and frankly frustrating mystery of them all.
It's a script.
The script that no one can read.
The Indus script, found on the seals, yes, but also pottery shards, small copper tablets, bits of ivory.
How many signs are there?
Somewhere between 400 and 600 unique signs. It varies depending on how you down them.
400 to 600.
And despite decades, literally decades of effort by brilliant people worldwide using every method you can think of.
Still undeciphered.
To this day, it's arguably the biggest linguistic puzzle left from the ancient world.
Why? Why is it so hard? I mean, we cracked Egyptian hieroglyphs, Mesopotamian cuneiform.
That's the key comparison. There are a few critical reasons. The number one reason, the biggest hurdle. No Rosetta Stone. Absolutely no bilingual text, nothing with Indus script written alongside a known ancient language. The Rosetta Stone had hieroglyphs, Demotic, and ancient Greek. That was the key.
Without that parallel text, you're just guessing in the dark.
Pretty much. You have nothing to anchor the symbols to. No way to link them reliably to known sounds or meanings.
Okay, that makes sense. What else makes it tough?
The inscriptions themselves are incredibly short.
Right, you mentioned that.
The vast majority have fewer than 5 symbols, the longest one known, only 26 symbols.
26. That's barely anything.
Imagine trying to decipher English if the longest text you had was "see spot run." You get very little context, no sentences, no narratives, none of the grammatical structure you get from longer texts.
And we don't even know what language family it belongs to.
Exactly, that's another huge problem. Is it related to Dravidian languages spoken in South India now? Is it an early Indo-European language, like Sanskrit? Or is it something else entirely, an isolate language with no known relatives?
So you can't even make educated guesses based on related languages.
Highly speculative if you try. Without knowing the underlying language, trying to assign sounds or guess grammar based on symbols is, well, it's mostly guesswork.
So what are people trying now? Technology must be involved.
Yeah.
AI.
Oh, absolutely. Modern computational methods are being used. AI for pattern recognition, looking for recurring sequences, structures, anything that might hint at grammar or common phrases. There have been projects like at the University of Washington doing just that.
Finding patterns in the sequences.
Trying to, yes. And comparative linguistics is still a major approach. Trying to find structural links or similarities with language families like Proto-Dravidian. But the results, they're really debated. Inconclusive so far.
And isn't there even a debate about whether it's a proper language script at all?
Yes, that's another layer. A pretty significant controversy, actually.
What's the argument there?
Some scholars, notably Steve Farmer and his colleagues, argue strongly that the symbols might not represent a full spoken language.
So what then? Just symbols?
Maybe more like a system of non-linguistic signs? Pictograms, perhaps, used for admin, like tracking goods, identifying families or clans, or religious symbols, kind of like heraldic crests or trademarks today.
Okay, but others disagree.
Oh, yes. Many others firmly believe it is a true script, capable of representing language. They argue decipherment is possible, but we desperately need more material, especially longer inscriptions. Or the ultimate dream.
The bilingual text. The Indus Rosetta Stone.
That would be the game changer.
It just feels like that script holds the key to unlocking so much more about them. Their beliefs, their society, how they were governed. If only we could read it.
It's tantalizingly close, yet so far.
But then we hit the other massive mystery. The big one. The Great Disappearance.
The decline.
Around 1900 BCE, we see this urban phase start to fade. The great cities, Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, they weren't suddenly destroyed in a war.
No signs of widespread destruction like that.
They were gradually abandoned over time. What happened? What caused this huge, sophisticated urban network to just collapse?
Well, the causes are still debated. No single smoking gun. But the consensus points towards a mix of factors, not one big catastrophe.
Environmental change seems big, right? Rivers drying up.
That's a leading theory. Environmental factors look significant. One major idea involves the Ghaggar-Hakra river system.
The potential Saraswati River from Vedic texts.
Many scholars think so. It seems to have been a major water source for numerous IBC sites, if that river system shifted course or dried up significantly.
Devastating for agriculture.
Exactly. It would have crippled farming in those areas, forcing people to move.
Okay, so a major water source potentially vanished. What else environmentally? Climate change.
There's evidence suggesting broader climate shifts around that time too, possibly weaker, more erratic monsoon rains.
Which would hit their farming hard, especially if it was rain-dependent.
Severely. It hits the foundation of their economy. And we also see localized issues. In Mohenjo-Daro, for instance, there's evidence of repeated severe floods, thick silt deposits, water damage.
Even their amazing drains couldn't handle it.
Possibly overwhelmed, making city life increasingly difficult, unhealthy perhaps.
And what about internal factors, societal breakdown?
There are signs in the later phases of the cities that some interpret that way. Less standardized building, drains not maintained as well, maybe less organization in newer areas.
Suggesting a decline in central control or social cohesion?
Could be. Or maybe resource scarcity, over farming, deforestation for fuel and bricks, maybe trade networks got disrupted, all leading to economic stress, making these huge cities less viable.
Now, I know the old theory involved an invasion. The Aryans.
Ah, yes, the Aryan invasion theory. That's been largely debunked now.
By archaeology and genetics.
Yes, extensive research over recent decades. Early interpretations, some skeletons found in upper levels at Mohenjo-Daro were sensationalized as a massacre, fit a certain colonial era story.
But it wasn't really evidence of a battle.
Later, more careful analysis showed no signs of widespread violence, no conquest layer. And modern genetic studies don't support a sudden, large-scale invasion replacing the IVC people.
So if not invasion, what's the current thinking on where the people went? Did they just die out?
The prevailing view isn't extinction. It's more complex. Gradual decline, yes, but crucially migration and cultural integration.
Moving eastward.
Likely eastward, yeah. Towards areas with more reliable water, like the Ganges Basin. As the big cities became less sustainable due to environmental stress or internal issues, people gradually moved on.
And merged with other groups.
Over centuries, yes. They likely integrated with populations already there. And elements of IVC culture, their people, maybe even bits of their liquid or social structures, probably became part of the mix that formed later cultures in North India, including the Vedic cultures.
So more like a transformation and dispersal, not a sudden end.
Exactly. A slow fade and shift rather than an abrupt vanishing act.
So when we put it all together, what does it all mean? We're left with this truly haunting enigma, aren't we?
We really are.
Here's this vast, incredibly sophisticated civilization, building amazing cities, apparently without the huge palaces, temples, or armies that defined almost everyone else at the time.
Trading far and wide.
And maybe, just maybe, living in one of the world's first large-scale, relatively peaceful, perhaps more egalitarian urban societies.
Yet they leave us no readable writing to tell their own story.
No grand tombs spilling secrets of their rulers.
No single, simple answer for how they governed or why exactly their cities faded.
Drew Shooter's whispers from the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. Forgotten past.
It's a civilization that really does challenge our basic assumptions about human progress, about what complexity looked like, about ancient power itself.
And it's not just, ancient history locked away somewhere. The IVC's influence. It might still be felt today in South Asia, right? Though maybe subtly.
Potentially, yes. Though it's debated. Think about their urban planning grid layouts, drainage, public wells. These ideas might have resonated, influenced later Indian city planning over millennia.
And crafts, like jewelry or pottery.
Some traditions, especially in intricate beadwork, metalwork, certain pottery styles, you could argue some roots trace back to Harappan skills and aesthetics.
And what about religion? Those seals with figures.
Ah, the potential religious parallels. Figures in yoga-like poses, the bull motif, that horned figure. Some scholars cautiously suggest links or influences on what later became elements of Hinduism.
But that's speculative.
Very speculative and debated. But it shows how deep the IVC's roots might run in the subcontinent's cultural layers.
Speaking of enduring, sadly, the sites themselves are facing real threats today. Preservation must be a nightmare.
It's a constant uphill battle, absolutely. Mohenjo-Daro especially, being near the river, rising groundwater full of salts is literally eating away at the ancient bricks.
Oh, wow.
Past conservation efforts weren't always ideal either. Plus, you have urban sprawl encroaching on sites, looting, vandalism.
And political issues hindering research.
Sadly, yes. Tensions between India and Pakistan can sometimes make the collaborative research needed for a civilization spanning both modern borders, well, more difficult.
But technology offers some hope for finding more and protecting what we have.
Thankfully, yes. Technology is becoming crucial. Remote sensing, ground-penetrating radar GPR let us find buried sites without digging. Non-invasive archaeology.
Seeing underground.
Exactly. Digital reconstruction, 3D modeling. They help us visualize these cities, bring them to life for study and for the public.
Virtual museums, too.
Yes, making artifacts and discoveries accessible globally, hopefully fostering interest and support for preservation.
Ultimately, digging into the Indus Valley offers some really crucial lessons, even for us today, doesn't it?
I think so.
It helps us appreciate that maybe complex societies don't have to be violent or rigidly hierarchical.
Challenges that assumption.
We can learn from their sophisticated, maybe sustainable urban planning and water management. And it's just a fascinating early chapter in ancient globalization, these vast trade networks thousands of years ago.
Indeed. This deep dive shows it's not a closed book. It's a vibrant, mysterious story still unfolding. As tech advances, maybe if we get lucky with new finds, perhaps those silent stones will finally speak.
It is a mystery that keeps pulling us back. And maybe to leave you, the listener, with a thought to mull over. Could the Indus script ever really be deciphered? And if so, what would it take? A tech breakthrough, that crucial long inscription, or the Holy Grail, that elusive bilingual text, what might finally unlock this millennia-old puzzle, remained one of history's most compelling challenges.